Sir Topham Hatt, the Fat Controller. Sir Topham Hatt, the Fat Controller. Sir Topham Hatt, the Fat Controller. Which one is it? Let's get into it. Sir Topham Hatt, the controller of the island of Sodor's railway, affectionately nicknamed the Fat Controller by his engines and members of staff on the island of Sodor. Back then, it wasn't considered a slur to call someone fat. However, times have changed. A lot of people think the word fat is a slur. They are perfectly entitled to their opinions. Some people agree with it, some people don't. But the issue has recently reared its ugly head at an event at the Watercress Railway in Hampshire. Staff at the Heritage Line stepped in to tell a father that the term was insulting. A quote from the father specifically read, "We were talking about the Fat Controller when a member of staff stepped in. In no uncertain terms, we were told no one could use such a slur." Another visitor said, "Staff said he belongs to another era." Thomas and Friends is no stranger to controversy despite having such an illustrious career of 7 decades at the time of this recording. We've had issues about sexism. I swear I'm going to do that video. It's just a very hot topic and I don't want any more death threats. We've had issues about diversity. Again, I don't want death threats. And the recent revelation of the character Bruno being the first autistic character in Thomas and Friends, all engines go. I did a video on that and it definitely had some mixed results, but I still stand by my opinions. So what do we call Sir Topham Hatt? Do we address him by his name? Do we address him as the Fat Controller? Again, this is a debate that has went on a lot longer than recent events have dictated. I in no way condone body shaming. I've been fat, I've been anorexic. I've had both sides of the spectrum. I also know that being insulted for your weight is not a pleasant experience to go through and it has a disastrous impact on your mental health. However, I think outright banning terms is not the type of society that I would personally want to live in. I'm very much a believer in free speech, otherwise I wouldn't be doing this channel in the first place. Like the dad at Hampshire, he was talking about the Fat Controller because that was what he grew up with. Sir Topham Hatt was called the Fat Controller in the books, TV shows, and any other related material at that time. I call him the Fat Controller. I personally did not see it as an insult because I thought it was an affectionate nickname given by the engines and the staff at the island of Sodor. I do understand though that times have changed, opinions have changed, and some things can be seen as being offensive or not acceptable. So do we call Sir Topham Hatt by his name or by his affectionate nickname? Here's a wacky idea. Why not do both? If you want to call him by Sir Topham Hatt, that's perfectly fine. If you want to call him by his nickname, the Fat Controller, that's perfectly fine also. At the end of the day, Sir Topham Hatt is a fictional character. People who have played the part of Sir Topham Hatt or the Fat Controller can have their opinions on it. And I think that as long as it doesn't hurt anybody, then there's no problem. This father wasn't going up to Sir Topham Hatt and going, "Haha, you're fat." There was no malice. There was no hate. It's just a terminology that he was discussing with his child. So I don't see a problem with it. I think those members of staff should have approached the situation much more professionally than they did. If they'd went up and said, "If you could not use the term Fat Controller in front of the person who is playing the Fat Controller at this event, it would be greatly appreciated," as some of our customers might find that as body shaming. I think the father would have been okay with that. Outright banning a term just encourages people to use it even more. Because if they hadn't outright banned the term, I wouldn't be making this video. So if you're offended by the term the Fat Controller, that's okay. Call him Sir Topham Hatt. If you don't see the problem with calling Sir Topham Hatt the Fat Controller, go ahead and use it. I don't see any problem with it. But my bit of advice to both sides, have some respect for each other. Don't just outright slate someone for using one terminology if you don't agree with it. We all have our personal reasons for why we do or do not like such words. I myself am not a big fan of the word useless, but as the Reverend would say, that's another story. I have my reasons behind it, It is a bit of a trigger for me, but I don't react when someone else uses it, at least not anymore, because they don't see that word in the negative connotations that I see it. So I think I'll end this video by using a sentence that was frequently used in my childhood but seems to have been forgotten in recent times. If you can't think of anything nice to say, don't say it at all. Thank you for watching, and until next time, keep on chugging.